I swear I do not believe it. And they are back on terms.
Good evening. Welcome to New York Talk. We are back again as we have battered another opponent in the Papa Johns to storm through as group winners. But now comes the serious business of hosting one of the hot teams in the league, Sunderland, come to New York Stadium for the first time ever. They'll come to the New York Stadium. So we're going to have a look through that. We'll have a quick chat about the Man City game in midweek. And like I said, we'll move ahead. Looking forward as well. We have the Scouting Report on tonight. This is pre-recorded with Graham Falk from What the Falk podcast, which made my favourite podcast name so far. It's a beautiful name.
It is very good, that. I'll give him that.
But we have Mick, as you can hear, Danny, and we have Mick with us as well.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us. At some point, we'll get Ben back on. Who knows when that'll be? But, Ben might be available at some point.
He's a London boy, we keep saying it, but he's a proper London boy now. He'll come back with a Cockney accent.
Oh, better not. It's not welcome.
Wait, do what?
So, yeah, it was the 5-0 win on midweek. Loads of kids played for City, but more importantly, a few kids played for Rotherham United. Let's talk about one of the senior pros first of all. Danny, you can only start with Kieran Sadlier. That's the only place to start. His first hat-trick for Rotherham. I'm not sure it might be his first hat-trick in English football. I'm not sure. We have to check that. But he did everything asked for. As a senior pro in a young team, he did everything we needed him to, really.
Yeah, he did. And I think one of the highlights of the evening was all the Man City fans on Twitter crying, saying, oh, he scored an hat-trick and he's 27. It's an under-21s competition. It's like, yeah, for you it is, but for us it isn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, sadly his hat-trick, I mean, it's not like the perfect hat-trick in the sense of what it is, but it's like the alternative perfect hat-trick where it's a penalty, free kick and open play. And this free kick, I mean, what a way to round it off. That sort of free kick in added time. I mean, you can't really complain about that. But he's sort of made amends for earlier in the game. Like, he had a few wayward shots. I mean, one of his shots was going wide and Grigg put it in. But sadly, he sort of made amends by keeping his head down and keeping at it. And he's bagged the hat-trick. So it's another headache for Paul Warne, isn't it? Like, he scored an hat-trick. Do we put him in the team? Do we not? He's still on really good form and sadly is living up to what he said on past interviews where he's just going to keep his head down and keep working and trying to be his best. And I think Tuesday was him probably at his best, if not near enough there anyway.
Yeah, I think so. It's important for players like Mick, and it's a really obvious thing to say, and I know it's an obvious thing to say, but it's vital for someone like him to put performance in games like that. And for all three games, certainly the first game against Donny and this one, he has played how he needs to play in these type of games. He just needs to now transfer it across, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's staking a claim, isn't he? He's definitely staking a claim for a first-team start, without a shadow of a doubt. But that place is going to become available, hasn't it, within the first team? Yeah. Because Warne is just proving time and again that if it's your shirt to lose. So until there's somebody either injured or out of touch in a position that he plays, then unfortunately for him, he's going to be destined for bench for the foreseeable. But yeah, I mean, he's done what he can, like you said, and what a way to do it. I know.
Yeah, just a bit. On Danny, you were the only one of the three of us that went to the game. Obviously, Ethan says he saw you, and you weren't happy with the referee. I think that's fair.
Oh,
yeah. I watched it. I streamed it. Mick, did you watch it?
No,
that's fine.
I'm putting in a protest. It was a protest evening for me.
You paid for the first one, and you went to the second one, but you protested on the third one.
Yeah. I stood outside my house with a placard.
Did you glue yourself to pavement?
Yeah, I glued my face at front of my house.
It'd been better again for the Scunny game if you'd gone and glued yourself to the gates at New York Stadium going, no one's coming in.
Yeah.
Danny, did you realise that the next Neymar came on as substitute in the second half?
Yeah, the lad who's worth 9 million quid?
9 million quid already.
And he was in who played on that side? He were in J. Cole's pocket for the second half, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Oh dear. But yeah,
I mean, KK or something.
KK. Kekai, I think, or at least that's how Les Payne pronounced it. So we'll go with that.
That can't be right, can it?
But yeah, he's come on and so he had that spell in the first half where we're a bit, hang on, these are threatening a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think our experience and our fitness as well prevailed in the end. Because as soon as like the more experienced pros, shall we say, came off the pitch and all our young ones came on, we ran them ragged. It's like it were effectively us playing by the Premier League rules in the competition. Like where it's meant to be under 21s and you're allowed 3 or 4 overage players and first team players. That was effectively us for the last half an hour, and we absolutely blitzed them. It's like, lads, your manager says you're under 21 and should be like in the B team in this league, and you've been smacked 5-0. Like reevaluation. Yeah, like what Ethan said, I was not happy with that referee. He seemed to be giving everything their way, to me anyway. And because there was quite a big number of young fans in who haven't really got the lungs on them yet, shall we say, I could hear myself echoing from the West Stand because I was sat next to Tiny RUFC Vlogs, and you can probably hear me on his video. I mean, I was probably the most vocal fan other than the fella who gets the songs going at the other end. But yeah, some of the yellow cards for us seem silly, if that makes sense.
He loves the yellow card, that ref, didn't he? They were thinking about him before, weren't they? He loves the yellow card.
Yeah, but he somehow gave us 3 in the first half, I think, and we had some decent penalty shouts in the first half. Nothing.
We really did.
And then in the second half, I think it took one of their players to absolutely clatter JJ, and then we got a free kick. And I mean, fair enough, sadly, I scored from it, so can't really complain that much.
Yeah.
So they've got a kid in their team worth £9 million.
Next name, apparently.
Who puts that valuation on a kid who's turned out against a League One outfit, who've played half of the juniors and lost 5-0 in 45 minutes, and he's worth £9 million?
And it was in the pocket of a lad who's only 2 years old.
I'll tell you what, whoever put that valuation on him, I'm going to go and sell him my car. It's worth 200 grand, mate. It might be a clapped out Fiesta, but it's worth 200 grand here. Come on.
Yeah.
It might be worth £9 million in a few years, but he ain't worth it now.
No, he's worth 10 bob and a Freddo.
Exactly.
On to us. It was a great night for the youngsters. I'll run through the players that played, and we'll talk about some performances. Jake Hull played again for the 3rd consecutive Papa John's game. Jacob Grattan got his first start, having played in the Doncaster game. I think I'm right. Curtis DeRose played in the central midfield alongside a Dolphin. And then it was down to the substitutions. Kieran McGuckin came on, and so did Mackenzie Warne. To see a Warne come on the pitch again was a blast from the past. I thought, we'll start with DeRose, Danny. I thought he was a very, very solid midfielder. I thought he looked after the ball well. I thought he broke the play up well. I was really impressed with him.
Yeah, I was. I mean, I don't know if he's still in our youth setup or if he's on loan somewhere. It could be a youth loan, I don't know, but he seemed really confident in himself. And to say he was in a team of more seasoned professionals, as well as the youth side, he looked like he can handle himself very well. I mean, he seems like our own like pocket-sized version of Barlaser.
Yeah.
Of course, he's still got youth on his side, and he's maybe not as targe on the ball as the other midfielders, but someone of his age playing in a men's competition, he's done very well, and I was really impressed with him. I was impressed with all of them, to be honest. Yeah.
No, I would, to be fair. Jake Hulmick, another goal, 2 goals in 3 games. I mean, he's got everything. He's talk about this a lot. And then you can talk about a lot of players at that age. They've got everything they need at that age. And Jake Hull is in that category. He's got everything he needs. He needs to get stronger, is what I will say. He's tall, but he does need to bulk up a bit. But that, again, he's 19 years old, whatever it is. Yeah. That'll come. You look at the difference between Coyote when we first saw him to now. He's bulked up. He's different. He looks a different guy. And that's part of the process for all of them. But again, Jake Hull ticking all the boxes, playing with somebody you would want to play with and learning the right things in the right time. If you've not checked out NewYorkTalk.co.uk, you'll be able to see Lewis Oldham's article on our youth at the minute. And it's looking really positive, Mick, isn't it?
It's looking very, very positive. I mean, it's over the years, you look back over the years, and we've had quite a few promising players come through the ranks at Rotherham United, and we've never really had the management team across the board to bring them on, and also never really as a club, I don't think, had the will to do that. It's all been more about sort of let's see what we can get from them, let's ship them out as soon as we can. So we've got the structure in place now to bring these lads on, and Ben Wiles is a perfect example of that, of how he's progressed over these last 2 or 3 years, and how he continues to progress. And even if only 2 or 3 of these lads progress at the same rate, that's got to be considered a success. But when you look at the way that they played the other night, there's no reason why they can't all do it. They're certainly not going to be for the want of trying in terms of the club itself trying to develop these lads. So it's really, really good times. Really good times for Rotherham United.
Yeah, it is. And McGuckin Danny, the assist for Sadlier's second goal was an assist beyond his years.
Yeah,
and I say that because I might be being a bit harsh, but if that's Kieran Sadlier, he's had a shot. Kieran Sadlier doesn't lay that off. If you swap the roles, that doesn't happen, does it?
yeah, and like I say, he took words straight out of my mouth there. An assist beyond his years. I mean, even Sadlier said after the game, he went up and said well done to him, because he was expecting him to shoot from that position as well. And I think some young players do get carried away when the ball comes to them in that position. It's like, oh, it's here and it's 16 yards away, I'm going to have a go. Yeah. But to have that knowledge and that, how did Led Payne put it? He came up with a phrase that I really liked about it, but now I've forgotten. It's something about seeing the future of the game and how it's going to progress. He saw Sadly coming into a better position, so he's gone, I'll add it to him, and he's assisted. And like I said, it's beyond his years. That's something you see in men's football and not from a youth player.
Yeah, it's also something that's very, very difficult to teach into a player.
Exactly.
It's one of those things, and we talked about this many years ago, Matt, when we coached junior football. But St Joseph's, you get a player every now and again who was 2 or 3 yards faster than everybody else in the mind, in the head, and had that ability to read the game and read the positions that they were in on the pitch. And that's one of those things that's really, really difficult to sort of instill in players. A lot of the times they've either got it or they haven't. So when that sort of thing happens, it automatically it makes you sit up and think, well, hang on a minute, how did he pick that one out? Because as you say, you just expect that they're just going to put the foot through it and, looking for glory. So yeah, it's all positive stuff. This all positive.
And fair play to the guy at Northern Ireland who spotted him already in our youth and gone, you can come in.
Yeah. Well, he's already a youth international. Has scored a few goals for Northern Ireland under 19s. He'll probably get called up again during the next international break, which will help us call a game off. We're through to the next round. It guarantees us a home tie, apparently.
Oh, great.
It's got its critics, this competition. Three of us have criticised it, but we have used the competition for me in the right way. We've mentioned here, RUS Ethan, a lot of fans moaning at Ladepo coming off at half time. He sort of precaution as Grid can play, so his eyes stop fatigue and injury. Yep. We've used it to get minutes into players, youth players and adult players, professional players. For me, if we're going to have this competition, this is how we should be using it.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
No doubt about it, yeah.
Cool.
What I will say is that there was a lot of criticism about Warren going very strong for the Scunthorpe game. But in hindsight, that glorious thing, you look back at it and go, well, you could say he went strong for that game, so it guaranteed his progression, so he could play more youth players against the City lot. Because we won't want to be in a situation where we had to beat City to get through, because then everybody would be upset if we didn't. But because we were already through against Scunthorpe, and he's gone strong for that, and he's gone, right, I can get more young players in and then rest a lot of them for Saturday. So if that's the way Ronnie built it up from the beginning, then that's a masterstroke. If it's coincidence, then it's paid off beautifully well.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Stuart March mentions after the Sadler's hat-trick against City, would he be the man to start for on Saturday? It's an interesting point. Let's move on to the Sunderland game. What we're going to do now, we've got the scout report tonight from Graham Thorpe. I'm going to play the first part of this, which is it's about 7 8 minutes long. It's interesting listening to it, but what I'm going to say is, what if anybody's watched it on YouTube, just watch me, because my chair slowly drops down as I get lower and lower. so keep it.
Oh, this is going to be good.
Here we go.
Thank you for joining us, Graham. So let's talk about Sunderland. Big game Saturday. Let's start with, we always start with pre-season. What was the pre-season expectations? A couple of nearly years in League One. What were the pre-season expectations for this year?
It was weird at pre-season at the time, because if I go back to pre-season, it was a little bit. I think we were getting a little bit worried. I mean, coming off the back of last season when we got beat off Lincoln in the playoffs, it's a weird season last season, as I'm sure we all remember. But we got the fans sort of back in, so it was that kind of weird feeling of positivity that we got back in the ground, and then we got beat after pulling a 2-goal thingy back. But then we kind of all agreed, look, the players, this section of players needs to move on. We probably need this, and this. We need to take 8 or 9 players out, let the contracts run out, and replace. That sort of happened. We kept Luke O'Nien and McGeady, which were probably at the time the two we probably wanted to keep. But then come to like August time, early August, we'd signed like 3 players, and we were like, oh God, like we don't mind these players going, but we need a bit of a replacement. Obviously, I'm sure we'll come on to it, but that changed. I think at the time, I'd guested on the Third Tier podcast, and I said we'd be 4th, and I was being a bit positive compared to how I was feeling at the time, because I was thinking, God, we've got no right back, we've got no left back, which we didn't at the time. I was thinking we still need somebody in midfield. I wasn't convinced on the ones that came in, because Callum Doyle was 17 years old from Man City. Corey Evans had came in and was always injured. That hasn't really changed, but he's a better player than I thought he was. And I was a bit concerned. So in pre-season, it was a little bit of a, oh God, this feels awful. Like we can't afford to have a season where we're underprepared again. But I'm sure we'll come on to it. That's changed for very positive reasons.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Lee Johnson, the manager, been there a little while yet. When he came in, I thought that would be a bit cool to get that caliber of manager in League One. I know he didn't go up last year, but how's his time been so far? It seems positive where we are now, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, right now it feels really positive. I'll openly admit that when he came in, I was all right with it. I was kind of like, well, championship, fair enough. I was sort of anchoring for Gus Poyet, but I am a romanticist. So take that with a pinch of salt. Like for me, I'm probably one of those people that still thinks Peter Reid could do a job, even though he's about 20 years out of a job. So Gus Poyet was really close to it, I'm led to believe. And then for some reason or another, he didn't get it. And then it was between Lee Johnson and Danny Cowley. I don't dislike Danny Cowley, but I really didn't want him. I don't know why, I just didn't. So Lee Johnson would have been sort of the option. When he first came in, it was different, because for me, the most successful Sunderland managers that we've had are the likes of Peter Reid, Sam Allardyce, Mick McCarthy, have all got us promoted and more. Oh, well, not Allardyce didn't get us promoted, but did well with us and so on and so forth. And Roy Keane, of course, was the big one. So I always think a big personality in terms of like a tough character that'll, say it as he sees it works. And Lee Johnson's very much, and I hope your viewers and your listeners understand what I mean by this, but very LinkedIn in terms of the social media site. He's very big, long, lovely words and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not really sold on that, but he went on a really good run last season and pulled us from what was mid-table to then, looking like we could actually get automatic promotion, and then went on a horrendous run. And Bristol City fans were saying, he's Streaky Johnson, he'll go on a good run, then a bad run. But if I'm going to judge him solely on this season, with the bulk of his signings and the bulk being his squad and, almost a year in charge, when we've got beat, he's responded with 2 or 3 wins. And Sunderland's problem for a few seasons have been not so much we don't lose a lot, we draw too many. He might have lost 3 this season, but he's won sort of 2 games after that or 3 games after that and put runs together. He's not had a streak that's been anything but good this season. There's been the odd poor result in between, few and far between. He's doing really well in the Papa John's Trophy with basically our under-21s team, under-23s team, whatever it's called these days. And we're doing really, really well in the League Cup randomly with the last non-Premier League team in there. So he's done really well. He's firing all cylinders. And I think, pardon my French here, but I'm not a person who likes a manager to waffle on so much in the way Lee Johnson does. But if he's winning games, he can talk as much shite as he wants, and I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, I've noticed the nonsense he talks sometimes, but like I said, it's a distraction in it sometimes. Even for the players, it helps distract the players away from issues and focus on sort of
I think there'll be a method behind it. That's what I like is that I'm kind of turning on to Lee Johnson, where I'm sort of like, I like him celebrating. And he said the other night, not exact quote, but he asked him about the QPR game, and he said, "It's a magnificent club. I love it." And I thought, well, if you've got the bug for it, then maybe you're not the character that I normally go for, like the Allardyce, the Peter Reid, the Roy Keane, but you're a character. I mean, he's about 4'2", and he still thinks he can take everyone on. So kudos for that. I'm not going to say anything to him. I don't want him jumping up my knee and breaking my thigh or anything like that. So
yeah, we had his run-ins with him before when Warnock were our manager. Yeah, they had a run-in together. So he's not a Rotherham fan, is Lee Johnson.
I'm not surprised.
Your start this season, you talked about your predicting fourth as being optimistic. So I suspect that the start of the season today, it's been a little bit of a surprise. It's been brilliant so far.
A lot of it came down to the recruitment, if I'm completely honest. I think we went into the first game of the season, we played Wigan, and I think I had a Wigan fan on the preview show, and he said, success is just a boring season after the past few seasons they've had. But to be fair, Wigan have signed players that are not players that I particularly liked in Max Power and Charlie White, but decent League One players. Yeah. And I think they did sign well elsewhere as well, whereas we signed differently to how Sunderland normally do. I think, the first game of the season we brought in, we had Carl Winchester playing right back, he's a midfielder. We had Dan Neil playing at left back, he's a midfielder. So people were like, we're looking a bit short. We've lost Charlie White. Can Ross Stewart step up? Because he wasn't amazing last season when he played last season, Ross Stewart. But a combination of a few things. The recruitment's been great. We brought in Huggins from Leeds. He hasn't played too much, but he's kind of an example of the signings we're bringing in. But the likes of Callum Doyle, who's just turned 18 from Manchester City, he looks the kind of player that if he doesn't play for Man City, he's going to play for one of the bigger teams. He's a very, very good player. One of those players that you just think, you're just talented. You're never going to sign for something on a permanent basis. And different level, but I seen Johnny Evans come in when he played for Sunderland 2 loan spells, and very much in that mode where you go, well, we're never going to be able to keep him. We'll just kind of admire him while he's here. Yeah. Dennis Serkins came in on a permanent deal from Tottenham Hotspur, and Spurs fans were devastated by that. Can't say I heard about him before, but I can understand why. The kid is very, very good. In midfield, we've gone with like O'Nien and Dan Neil. Corey Evans has come in when he's not been injured, which is unfortunate because Corey Evans has been better than I thought as well when he's played. Dan Neil's been a revelation. He's been our academy product for a couple of seasons, played a couple of Papa John's games, and everyone thought, well, looks all right, I would like to give him more of a chance. He signed a new contract today to 2025, and I mean, the whole of Sunderland's like bouncing. He really looks like, and it's very high praise indeed, but, Pickford and Henderson both came from our academy. Probably the best that I've seen come from the academy since then. He definitely, I don't want to go haywire with him, but he's definitely able to make a step up if we get promoted, without a doubt. He looks very, very good. And then Ross Stewart scored goals. Ross Stewart's done a better job in terms of, well, he scored goals, which is what we needed in the first place, but he also adds to the team more than our previous strikers have, like the Will Griggs and the Charlie Whites of this world. He just fits the team better. So really positive. Once the transfer window closed and we settled down and we signed 2 players from Bayern Munich on like transfer deadline day, we kind of went, we should have trusted them all along. It was fine. It was always going to be all right. So it was a funny kind of turnaround, but I've got to give all praise to Speakman and Dreyfus and Johnson for identifying players that just suit what we have. Everything's not perfect. It never is with Sunderland, but it's better than it's been in a long, long time. And that's mainly due down to the recruitment, thankfully. Yeah,
I think a lot of clubs were sort of like in that area where transfer business was very late. We were the week before the season was when we signed most of our players this season. I think it's been a strange 2 years in football, but I think the transfer windows was hit quite badly with it.
Thank God it's back, though. Thank God it's back, eh? Thank God.
It's amazing, isn't it?
I've been to 40 games already this season because I go watch anyone and anything. It's great. So I'm pleased it's back.
So there we go for now. We will be back with Graham later on, where we will touch more on Will Grigg. We'll get his views on Will Grigg and any potential recalls, which may or may not happen in the future. Interesting listening to that, Mick, because it's very similar to us. in terms of the youth that's coming through, which is mentioned a few youth players coming through, but also our recruitment in the summer was very good. It was late, but it was very, very good. There seems like a lot of similarities between us and Sunderland this season. Even if you just look at those two sort of facts, there's similarities already.
Yeah, I mean, we've not signed anybody from Bayern Munich or Man City.
That's true.
But other than that, yeah, I mean, it's similar in the sense that we've both signed players. But where they've come from,
late in the window.
Where they've come from is a different matter, isn't it? But I don't know. I don't have a problem with Sunderland. I don't, honestly. I don't.
But there's a book coming here, Danny.
There is a book, yeah.
There
is a book because it's like, I don't know. It just seems, that we've those two things I just said there. We signed two from Bayern Munich and him from Man City, as if it kind of trips off the tongue, and it's just as if it's normal, and it's not normal, is it? It's not normal for a League One club. It's not normal, or in my head, and I'm not saying I'm right. It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't sit right. There's that kind of attitude that I see coming from the club, and I'm not saying it's there. It's just my opinion. It's I don't know. It's just that attitude of superiority, I guess. We are a big club. We've got a big ground, lots of supporters. We've been in Premiership.
Club.
Yeah, but they're a League One club.
True.
Yeah, I can definitely see where Mick's coming from, and I do think some clubs, like our blue neighbours, do have that arrogance that they are a big club. But you sort of have to take them down a peg that you are in League One. And in Sunderland's case, they have been in League One for a few seasons.
Yeah.
But I do think it does come down to Sunderland have always fished in a different pond to us, haven't they? And if you've got a stadium that's 49,000 and you're the only professional club in your city compared to us, and we've got another 4 clubs round us and we're in a town, you can sort of understand why they're getting players from Bayern Munich and we're getting them through our academy and from League One and League Two clubs. But I do agree that some fans do have that arrogance that they shouldn't be in this division. I do agree with that. I think you find them at Sunderland, Sheffield Wednesday and Ipswich as well.
Yeah.
It is the big club thing, isn't it? And ultimately, and I listen. It sounds really bitter and not very, having a pop, and it's not. It's just it feels, maybe it's a bit of an inferiority complex on my part as a Rotherham United supporter. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. It just doesn't sit well with me at all.
Okay, fair enough. No worries. There you go.
Sorry.
Few stats on Sunderland against Rotherham United. It's a bad record. It's a really, really bad record against Sunderland. We have won 3 times out of a total of 25 meetings, with our last win coming in 1962. So quite a while ago. To be fair, we don't play them that often. Obviously, we played them in the league last time out, but we didn't play them second time. The last time we played them before, it was 2004, I think. 2004, 2005 time. So it's not a fixture that comes around very often. And that's one of the reasons, Danny. Yes, they're a big club, but they're a big club and we don't play them very often. It's similar when we played Newcastle a few years ago. They're a big club and we don't play them. So it can make those occasions really special because you're just mixing those two things together.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you said earlier that it's the first time we've actually played them at New York. So no wonder it's sold out. But to have that record that we haven't beaten Sunderland since 1962, I think it just goes to show the difference in story, shall we say. Whereas Sunderland's stereotypical first division Premier League club, and they have been for many years, but they're just on one of them bits in history where you find yourself in the lower leagues. And I think because Sunderland now have the tools this season, I think that's why they are quite confident they'll go up. And I think because they've been here for a few seasons, they also understand the test that Rotherham's going to be for them. I mean, I spoke on one of their podcast groups, and they expect it's going to be a really tough game. But at the same time, they know it is going to be a good game because we're not going to, just roll over and show our bellies and go, "Oh no, it's Sunderland." We'll show our teeth and go, "Right, come on then." and they'll do the same to us.
Yeah, they've got finally. It's took them all these years, 3 years, whatever it is, but they do seem to have got the recruitment right. Again, that doesn't always pay off. You can get your recruitment right if the management team's not right. But again, you look at Lee Johnson, making you think, yes, he's got a bit of a little man syndrome, as Graham mentioned, but he has got pedigree. I know he abandoned Barnsley before he could actually finish the job, but he put Barnsley in a position which got them promoted however many years ago it was. So he does know what he's doing, even if you don't like him.
Bit of a Carl Robinson, isn't he?
Yeah.
You know, it's the thing about Lee Johnson is he's a nearly man, isn't he? And that's what he's proved. That's what he's proved throughout his managerial career. He either nearly does the job or gets fed up halfway through doing the job. I'm not surprised that he's gone to Sunderland because I think he sees himself as a big club manager, and I also think that probably deep down inside, he probably feels as though this is his first opportunity to manage a big club. I suspect. And that's no disrespect to Bristol, because I think Bristol obviously have proved themselves over the last few years to be a much better run club than probably the Rotherham United have been over that same period of time as well as Sunderland and the likes. But I don't know. It strikes me as a man that's full of his own ego. Whether that's right, I don't know. But that's certainly how he comes across to me. I'm not a fan, I'll be honest.
No, I'm not. Again, Graham mentioned it then, Danny. He is known to be a streaky manager. His Bristol City team were almost legendary for winning 6 or 7, losing 6 or 7, then winning 6 or 7. But then this season, every game they've lost, they've gone to win the next 2 straight after. So maybe he's got over that. But there is a possibility, if we look at his overall history, this may be a good time to play a Lee Johnson team, having just lost last week.
Yeah, potentially. And I think because of the Sunderland's form this season, you have to say, well, if they've lost, he's probably one of their managers where he probably gear them up for the next game. But if we can stop them playing the way they want to play and frustrate them, then that could be an advantage for us. And with Lee Johnson, to understand his character, all you need to do is look at his comments for the next round of the Carabao Cup, where he says, I hope we get Tottenham or Arsenal because it'll be an easier game. You know,
and then play the big boys in next round or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So he's a manager that doesn't like to. He likes to tell it how it is sometimes, but he also likes the banterous side of it, like these comments about Tottenham and Arsenal. But yeah, like I say, I think if we upset them and frustrate them like we did against Portsmouth, I think it could prove fruitful for us.
Yeah. I saw a stat the other day, Mick, that we are one of the few teams in the country not to concede in the first 15 minutes of games. Yeah. And in games like this, it's much like the Wycombe game, do not concede early. It's massive. Do not concede early. And we've been doing that. That's a massive change to our game. It's a really obvious thing to say. Again, I feel like football, we always talk in cliches and obvious statements, but it's vital you don't concede early in a huge game like this. And we so far got a really good record of that.
It's not a great game for that stat to come out, is it? Really? You know,
really.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. We've been solid. We've been really, really solid so far, with the exception of that Fleetwood debacle. We've had a really solid season. So you know they're going to have to go something. If they can come to New York Stadium on Saturday and win and go away with 3 points, I think we're probably 99%. One of us will say they'll have to deserve it. They're going to have to work damn hard for it. You know what I mean? And whether Lee Johnson's side has got that in them, well, that's up for question, isn't it? You know, whether they've had to work hard for any of the victories so far. Obviously, we don't know. I don't know. It may well be that they've had some tough games, or it may well be that you know the teams that they've beaten have rolled over, and then they come up against somebody like Portsmouth. I accept it were raining.
A bit.
Well, I didn't say a bit. I just said it were raining. You know, but both teams had to play in the same condition. And they come up against Portsmouth, who are a good side, and get spanked, absolutely spanked. So, yeah, you're right, and the lad from the Sunderland podcast is right as well. You know, Lee Johnson is streaky in his management. And looking at it this season, you know, he's probably proving the same again. You know, win 2 or 3, lose 1. Win 2 or 3, lose 1. that's not the form of somebody who's going to be challenging right at the very top at the end of the season.
No. They've also got the cup run. They're now through to the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup, which on paper, Danny, you think that's great, that's amazing. And it is. It's great. They're only non-Premier League team left in the tournament. That's really good. If that were us, we'd be incredibly proud of it. But from an opposition point of view, and from my head, I'm thinking that's brilliant. They've just done there's a big cup win. Let's play them after the Lord Mayor's show. I know it's a big game for it against us still, but you want to play teams who have got their priorities almost elsewhere.
Yeah, and the fact it went to penalties against QPR as well. So they had that little bit of an extended time out on the pitch. So there might be, and it'll be mental tiredness as well. You've celebrated a win against QPR and you've gone through. But not to sound like an arse or anything, but there's always one League One club that goes on and running that cup, isn't there? It was
always.
Where was it a few seasons ago? Were it Burton? A few seasons
yes,
ago.
they got semis, didn't they? And lost like
they got
10
semis
in aggregate.
Yeah, and now it's Sunderland.
Yeah.
But now's the right time to play. And we've come off a big win against Man City where we didn't really over excel ourselves because we rested key players. But for them against QPR, it's more of their first team who've had a game on Tuesday, so they might be a little bit more fatigued. So that's something for Johnson to consider for the game. It's a big game as well. They'll be mentally tired from the QPR game and it going to penalties because it's no, I forgot my phrase. But basically, going to penalties, it takes a toll on you.
Yeah.
We know as fans when it goes to penalties, your heart's in your throat, and I imagine it must be the same for the players. Now to come off that Tuesday and then wind down, and then suddenly it's another big game Saturday. It must take a toll on them, surely.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I hope you're right. Moving on to more Rugby United related things before we'll move back to something later on. The goal last week, Nick, we haven't talked about this because it only got announced on Wednesday afternoon that somehow Michael Smith has been able to claim the goal on last Saturday. Well, I don't know what you could say, Mick. He definitely, he touched it apparently.
Listen. Is it the dubious goals panel or is it the dubious goals panel? You know what I mean? Is the goal panels dubious, or is it the goals that are dubious? Yeah, there's no way he touched that ball. Not in a million years. Not in a million years. But hey, listen, it's one onto his total, innit? And Dan Barlaser is not a striker. Dan Barlaser is an assister. But realistically, and at the end of this season, Dan Barlaser will be counting his success, I guess, on the number of assists that he's got, and maybe he'll chip in with a goal. Michael Smith will be counting his success on how many times he's hit back at net. So, for me, it's just another indication of the teamwork that goes off within this squad, and the relationship between the players. So, yeah, it is a dubious Michael Smith goal. Definitely.
Yeah, we mentioned his stats last time. It takes him to joint top goal scorer in the league. It takes him to 47 goals for the Millers. He's shooting up that scoring charts, Danny. And although we all don't think he scored, his overall performance probably deserved a goal anyway. And it's got to keep that confidence building, and it's obviously only a positive.
Yeah, I mean, I have checked my footage back on the vlog, and he definitely didn't touch it. We need VAR for the EFL panel for that one, but I think it's because Barlaser went to the club and says, "No, I want you to give it him." It's a sort of a win-win because now Smith joint top at scoring charts and Barlaser's joint top of the assisting chart. So it's a win-win for both, and it brings Smith one step closer to that Alan Shearer Newcastle shirt that Richie's got when he covered. So it's a step closer, so Richie will be pulling his hair out now about going, you better not get it. But yeah, like I say, another goal for Smith. It's a big confidence boost for him because, like I say, he deserved a goal against MK. Might score against Sunderland. I mean, they will absolutely despise him if he scores against Sunderland.
Can you imagine him scoring in front of the away end?
And then going and shushing him. Picture it here. Do you mind the one against Doncaster? Picture it here, that one.
Yeah. Oh, he'd love that, wouldn't he? He would love that.
Yeah,
he would do it, share a celebration in front of him. Oh, imagine. And anyway, back to today. But yeah, Smith is firing up the charts now. It's one of his best seasons, if not his best season. I think the only season he did better for was Swindon.
I think 14 in league, I think. I'll double check that.
Yeah, but he's nearly. If he did. Okay. But yeah, it's.
Yeah.
Must have pressed one button. But yeah, Smith's nearly on 14, if that's what he got for Swindon. And yeah, I think if he gets it, he'll be over the moon. Did you press the wrong button, Matthew?
Yes.
I think he will.
I googled on the tab where we were all on, so I did leave for a second, then I'm back. Let's do our lineup prediction, as we always like to do. We'll go through team player by player. Vickers will start. I think that's a fair assumption. There's no reason to change the goalkeeper unless he picks up an injury between now and Saturday. Then comes your back three is even interesting, Mick. Woody played on Tuesday, against the City. You would assume Woody would play, but Icky, Harden, and Reg, none of those three did anything wrong to get dropped. So it's difficult to shoehorn Woody back in.
That's the one, isn't it? That's the one, yeah. Yeah, I don't have to make that decision. I suspect, bearing in mind the significance of the game, that Woody might well come back in. That the shirt is yours to lose scenario might not fit on this occasion, but I may well be wrong. We'll have to wait and see. But I have a sneaky suspicion he might come back in.
Possibly. For Harding?
For Icky.
Do you think? Okay.
Yeah, I can see that, yeah.
Fair enough. Both think Reg will keep his place? I assume he will.
Yeah,
I don't think there's any doubt about
that. Harvey Kelwick asked about the same team as MK, but Ladepo and Greg will come on to that chat, though, striker force in a minute. But again, there's no reason to change midfield, Mick. Jimmy Lindsay's close to being fit, not fit yet. So I feel sorry for Adolfin. I thought Adolfin were really good on Tuesday night, but he rightly can't get in the team with me. He doesn't deserve to get in the team through no fault of his own, if that sort of makes sense.
No, absolutely. I can't see there being any changes there. Can't see there being any changes in midfield. Why would you? I mean, they've just been absolutely electric, haven't they? So yeah, I think the choices are going to be made on that left hand side if Miller's fit. I suspect he might start after his performance in the second half against McDonald's when he came on, and also
played 90 minutes in midweek, though, didn't he?
Played 90 minutes as well, and he's got a sore foot, but hopefully he's going to be fit. So he may come in, but other than that, it's just Will Grigg who's not going to start in it. So really, for me, it's centre of defence and centre forward that are the two spots up for grabs for me, I think.
Are you keeping Chio in, Danny? It might need to be defensive at times. Could you see Warney doing the trick of leaving him on bench and bringing him on with half hour?
I mean, yeah, you can sort of see where that mindset had come from. More of a keep the clean sheet for the early part of the game and then hit him with the pace later on. You could see that. And if that's the case, then it would be Harding on the right and Ferguson on the left, and then bring Chio and Miller on second half and just blitz him like we did against. Who did we blitz? Was it Wimbledon that we blitzed, or was it Portsmouth? Wasn't it?
Portsmouth.
Yeah. So we could play a similar tune to that, or we could go the other way where we do it early on and try and shock them a little bit. But no, I out of the two, I can see us going the defensive route to start with and hitting them with pace. If they've played quite a high intensity game against QPR Tuesday, and like I say, it went to penalties, then if you can just tire them out in the first half and then bring on your pace in the second half, it'll be like 6s and 7s. And then I agree with the comment that was on earlier. Ladipo in for Grigg. I think good for Grigg that he can't play against him because that'd be hilarious, wouldn't it? But yeah, Ladipo, he's on form at the minute. He came on and did really well against Milton Keynes. I can't see any reason why he can't do well Saturday as well.
Yeah. Any shout? Sadly, I got that trick, Mick. So you could argue he should start. But then if you did start him, you would then be taking away a striker. You'd be taking away what has worked with Smithy and another person. So I'm assuming... Why would you start him?
I'm assuming on Tuesday night he played sort of that number 10 role, I assume.
Yeah. He did well, so what do you think?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, unfortunately for him at the moment, it doesn't exist, that spot. That vacancy, if you like, in first team. So, because it's obviously a different formation, unless of course you pretty much stuck up front with Smithy. I don't know whether that'll work. I don't think that'd be fair on Freddie or JJ either, to be honest. So yeah, sad as it might be for Kieran Sadley, and it is, because he's no doubt he's a good player. He's just got to wait. He's got to bide his time, because his time will come.
I think the only way I can see Sadley coming into this team is if he decides to rest Rathbone or Wiles.
Yeah.
And I mean, Ollie runs himself stupid every game, so he'll be due a rest at some point. Yeah. But I can see Sadley coming into him, and if that's the case, I would play him instead of Rathbone Saturday if you wanted to rest him, because there's no way you're dropping Barlaser for a Sunderland game, are you?
No.
You know, having a Geordie up front and a Geordie in midfield, you know, they are going to be up for it to no end, aren't they? But yeah, like you say, mate, it's gutting for Sadley because he played really well against Man City's young guns, and he does play well when he comes on, but his more accustomed position, shall we say, is that number 10 position, and it just doesn't exist at this point, because we can play Rathbone there, and he's like shite off and not shovel, if you pardon my French.
Yeah, it's just a terrier, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
You also probably stifle Wiles if you play Sadley. Sadley will get in Wiles' way, and really, who do you want at the minute? As Josh Smith mentions, once today in Advertiser, panicking over keeping Wiles, rates him as one of the best midfielders in the league. That exactly. Why would you put? I know Sadler's got a hat trick against some kids. You're not dropping it. You're not stifling Ben Wiles for anybody at the minute, or there'd have to be a special player to stifle him. So another reason why you can't play him at number 10 for me.
I'd argue that Ben Wiles is controversial. Is the best midfielder in this division. I would argue.
Yeah. Why not?
He's certainly up there, to say the least.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. So we're going to have the last chat with Graham Falk from What the Falk podcast, and then we'll be back afterwards to wrap up. So if anybody's watching on YouTube or Facebook, send us any questions in while this is on, and we'll come to them afterwards. We're going to start by asking about Will Grigg. So here we go.
From a Rotherham point of view, what we want to ask Sunderland is, number one, I know it didn't work out for him, but does it seem strange that you loaned him out to a promotion rival? And if things go well, what chance could you see of being recalled in January, just to make sure he can't score goals for us?
Nah, I don't think so. I think everyone at Sunderland, and I normally say I don't speak for every fan, but I think I probably do in this instance. I don't think anyone wants him back, and it's not a harsh thing. You know what, moves sometimes don't work out, and you just get on with it. But if I'm going to be honest with you, he never looked interested from day one. It never felt like it was going to be a move. I remember on his home debut, Blackpool at home, he rounded the goalkeeper and hit the side net, and you were just like, oh. Which was like, you sort of felt it, and the lad in front of us turned around and went, oh man, why is he not on fire? And I was like, well, it never has been since, really. And a few fans have came at us and have said, like, oh, you've not really given him a chance. He's done all right at MK Dons and here and then the other. But I would ask any fan to, like, watch the chances he's had. He's missed open goals. He's fell over the ball. He's the kind of striker where, like, when you say, if it just goes in off his backside, his backside would physically move out the way if he had a chance of scoring with his backside, because it's just not meant to happen. It was a bit of a short-sighted move. And, as a fan, I've got to be honest, when we brought him in, I thought, great, we just lost Madger, who's the best possible striker we could get. Well, on paper, it's Will Grigg. But that's why I'm not paid to make decisions, and why Stuart Donald allegedly is. But I think everyone's seen Netflix that it's never going to work out for Will Grigg. And I think when he went to Rotherham, kind of surprised in a sense, but I think he played a few games in pre-season. He scored the winner against Hull in pre-season, which was weird, because he always looks sad when he scored for us.
When he scores for us, he doesn't really celebrate. It's just like he's doing a job and he's just sort of trots away. I know what you mean.
And yeah, I can't remember who I spoke to, but I spoke to someone, Jack Baldwin, obviously played with him in the first season, and I said, Jack, without being funny, is he that miserable? He said, no, he's hilarious in the dressing room. He was a really good laugh. He's a really good lad. So unless he's totally talking rubbish, which he could be, apparently he's a really good bloke, and he's quite well liked within players. You see them commenting and stuff like that, and I don't think anyone's wished him badly, but he just never put the work rate in, which we discussed during the week, which I think is surprising for you to hear. In the same way that you said he worked really hard on my podcast, and I thought, bloody hell, really? It just didn't look like that, and I think for us to just go anyway, and it got to a point where I think we're probably paying some of his wages. I think he's on. I can't quote this, but I've heard from a relatively decent source he's on about 12 grand a week.
Wow,
possibly more.
We won't pay all that.
No, I don't think anyone can afford it. So I think for me, from every Sunderland fan's perspective, it was just a case of who wants him and who will pay the most. So maybe you've gone, look, we'll pay 4 grand a week for him, and we've gone, well, we'll just swallow the rest because he's pointless to have him. And it is like Will Grigg is that pointless. Where like if someone, I would pay someone to take him, to be honest. Not because I hate the lad, and it sounds really harsh, because I think he has got something in him. And obviously he scored goals at Rotherham, he scored goals at MK Dons, but at Sunderland, it's just a match made in hell. It just doesn't work.
Happens sometimes, doesn't it? Football's just strange like that.
It does. I'm sure he's a lovely lad, and I'm sure he's as gutted as anyone else that didn't work out, because who wouldn't want it to work out in front of 35,000 fans a week? But that was just the wrong move. So I think when he went to Rotherham, we were kind of like, watch him score goals and blah, blah, blah. But he's got to score goals for someone. He's going to go somewhere. And we've seen Elliot Embleton, our own youth academy product, get Blackpool promoted to the playoffs last year. So we've had that one already. So it's all right. You can get you promoted if you want. We've seen that before. We've been through that. But, fair play to him. Hope he does all right. He'll not be remembered in a good light here, but that's the way football is sometimes. I'm sure he'll live.
Yeah, definitely. So let's go on to score prediction. Looking at your results so far this season, and the games you've lost are games you probably expect you to not lose, and you've beat everybody else up there. You beat Wigan, Wickham, Bolton, who have been decent. So that makes me a little bit worried and concerned for Saturday, really, that you're beating the decent teams.
I think the games we've lost, the Burton game, which was the first one we lost, was a mental game. I think we had like 21 shots, 11 on target. They had like 4 shots, 1 on target. Guess who won the game? Burton, 1-0. And I watched it on the stream with my girlfriend. And we sat and watched it. And I think at about 65 minutes, I went, it's not going to happen, this, is it? And she was like, nah, never going to score. And you get those. And I think everyone was kind of all right with it and said, hey, look, go and win the game, be fine. The Portsmouth game, I think people would have seen on social media, it was a swimming bath.
Yeah.
But they were 3-0 up at half time. Our players are saying, ref, you've got to call this off. Players are falling over each other. There's going to be an injury, which there would have been. It was getting to that point. It should have been called off. But of course, Danny Cowley is saying, call this game off and you're going to have a riot. I think the referees obviously bottled it. I wouldn't say Portsmouth dealt with the conditions better. That got said an awful lot. It was just a case of Portsmouth style of play suited it better, and it literally went against us. But you could take that one on the chin as well. In a way, we responded to that with a few more wins after that, and good wins against Crewe and whatnot. Charlton was probably the most annoying one, because I don't think we deserved to lose it, but I don't think we deserved to win it. Yeah. I really don't think that. It was a lackluster performance, which, if it wasn't for QPR midweek, I would have probably still been stewing on it a bit and been like. But we're feeling positive again. It's weird. It's like when we get beat, we kind of go, get on the horse. It's fine. We've normally had a game on the Tuesday, which we can get out of our system. I think the game that's annoyed me most this season would be Fleetwood. 2-0 up with 9 minutes to go. We conceded 2 goals in the last 10 minutes. I hate playing Fleetwood. I could strangle them because for some reason we just cannot win down Highbury, even being 2-0 up. And that was frustrating because it was like self-inflicted. Bailey Wright giving away a penalty in the 97th minute. The other results I can kind of put down as one of those days. The other one was, well, you're never going to play in the swimming bath. And the Charlton game was, I think we were just better in a way. Probably slightly better. Should have been a draw. I don't know. But Rotherham's a tough game. I'd love to feel like, well, we've beat Wigan, we've beat those teams around us. But Rotherham, I'm a bit concerned by. It's a good side with good players that have been in a high division last year. And yes, you came down from it, but there's a reason you're up there and around the Euros.
Yeah, hopefully. So I'll ask you prediction. I know what your prediction is because we talked about it the other day. But for anybody, what's your score prediction for Saturday?
I'll do a Keir Starmer and I'll sit on the fence. 1-1.
Brilliant. And for anybody that wants a bit more Sunderland action preview of Saturday, where can they find you?
At what the folk pod, and that's as in my surname. Nice little play on words there. Doesn't take a genius to see what I meant. A lot of QPR love at the moment because I made a joke about Joel Lynch, which apparently has gone down really well with them. So maybe I'm a QPR pod now. I don't know, but there'll probably be Sunderland reaction. We'll have a review show afterwards. Our preview shows up there at the moment as well with you good self, Matt, and just stuff like that. Generally, it's quite lighthearted, and I tend to take the pee out of everything and just shout the word "yes" when we score, and that's pretty much it. So we're a very good podcast page to follow, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for joining us, Graham.
You're welcome, mate. Thanks for having me.
So there we go. One of us will be joining Graham for his podcast, the review podcast. So if you want to follow them, you'll hear from us next week. You all right there, Danny?
Yeah, it's just watching your seat slowly go down, and then his Keir Starmer comments sent me over edge. I were in bits during that.
I know. I didn't realise we were going down to I had to split it, so I put it into ours. And looked at the start of the first half and the start of the second half, and we're about a foot lower.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so a really good thank you to Graham for doing that. We very much appreciate it. Anything you want to touch on from that chat we had from Nick, Danny? Anything that stands out other than the chair?
Like I said about Will Grigg finding goals elsewhere, he's already scored half the number he scored at MK Dons last season, and he split it. I think it's 2 EFL Trophy, 2 in the league, whereas at MK it was all 8 in the league. So yeah, Will Grigg is finding goals, and I think, like you touched on it didn't really look interesting. I think Will Grigg is very particular about where he feels settled. And from what he said in interviews and all sorts, he feels really settled here. And the fact that they don't think they should recall him in January, very good.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
Does he feel settled enough to take a $8,000 a week pay cut or whatever it is?
I mean, Billy Jones did. He were on 33k at Sunderland, and he came down to 7k at us.
I can't believe we're paying 7k a week. That's crazy money.
Bad money.
But sometimes players do need, it's a cliche, but they just need the arm around shoulder. They just need to be told, you are amazing and we love you. And it just works sometimes.
Just put this into some sort of perspective. We are the highest goal scorers in all competitions in the Football League, right?
No, in England.
In England, sorry. Yeah, in England. We have scored 39 goals in all competitions this season, and Will Grigg scored 4 of them. So it's not necessarily about Will Grigg scoring goals. It's the work that he does off the ball. It's the work that he does occupying defenders that is just as important, if not more. Well, 35 times more important. You know what I mean? So that's obviously not that, but you know what I mean. You know what? So it's his involvement in the game that's just as important. And I don't know. Some people don't see that, I guess, because it's not that sort of work is not something that draws your eye, is it? You know what I mean? Yeah. What draws your eye is the ball in the back of the net from Smithy, but you don't see what Will Grigg's done to create in that space or whatever. So he's a key part to what we do, without a doubt, and not necessarily from a goals point of view.
No. Well, whatever Smithy's getting goals, it don't really matter. Grigg can get one here and there, but then Smith goals rise up. Grigg needs to score. It's a team game, you know, isn't it? So looking fair. Ref watch is David Rock, who has never refed us before. It's a very short and sweet one this week.
Very good.
Greg Addock says Grigg is the poacher we ain't had since Trevor Phillips. Nick, that's probably one for you.
Yeah. I would argue possibly Alfie. Yeah, he's a similar player to Alfie, but Trevor Phillips was again that sort of player. You know, bogliner as you used to call him at school. You know, but no, I mean Trevor Phillips was a really, really, really good player. Don't get me wrong, but very similar, very similar. So yeah, I can see where he's coming from with that. Definitely.
Mbibia says Woody and Harding will play on Saturday, so I assume that means he thinks Icky will drop out. I'd be amazed if Reg drops out. We shall wait and see on that one. And Barry Manderson asks the question, which will finish on a hypothetical. If we are fortunate enough to lose some of our best players in January, Do we still have to strengthen? And if so, where? I think if we've also not to lose any, sorry.
I've got a question for Barry. Assuming, let's assume that this question is asked on the assumption that we're not going to get any injuries, that are going to take somebody out for the season. I think, has Barry got a bit of a downer on Paul Warne? Does he want to make it more difficult for him than it already is? Because, where would you strengthen?
I know.
At what point, we've got players who are more than capable of walking into this first team who cannot get a game in virtually every position. Assuming that we don't get any injuries, Barry, from my point of view, I don't think we should be spending any money. I think
it's always important to refresh, though, isn't it? It's always important to refresh. You've got to find it's a tough one because you've got to find the balance of not bringing in for the sake of it.
Yeah,
but it's always good to have a refresh. Teams that do well tend to do something in January. It's very rare that somebody will not buy somebody in January and then still go up. You've
already got an issue of players fighting to get into that first team squad. If you're going to bring in another, I don't know, for the sake of argument, central midfielder, you like Kieran Sadley or you like Jamie Lindsay or not making, you like Akeem Adofin or not making that first team squad. How is that psychologically going to affect them? Is that going to stop them pushing to get into the first team? You know what I mean? Is it going to affect the balance? The way things are at the moment, the last thing you need to do is upset any balance on the pitch or off the pitch for me. We're going to get some injuries, aren't we? So I'm probably talking nonsense in reality. But at the moment, for me, assuming we don't get any, there's no change.
A lot depends on Angus MacDonald as well, doesn't it? If Angus MacDonald's back by Christmas, then we're laughing. We are set in that position. But if he's not fit, we are then probably a defender short. Possibly. Danny, what's your thoughts?
I'm inclined to agree with Mick. I think if everyone's fit and all right and we don't lose anybody, then there's no real reason to buy in anything because we've got good competition as it is. And I think that could be our natural refresh button. If we need to refresh, it's like, all right, we'll give you a chance and give you a rest rather than bringing somebody in to not upset the apple cart, but to shake it up. I think we've already got that natural shake-up option of depth. I think the two positions that I can see as maybe having a dabble at is right midfield and centre-back. But again, that depends on, excuse me, if Harding's more comfortable to play on that right-hand side, which, as we've seen so far, he is, and also Angus MacDonald, if he comes back fit for the new year, then there's no reason to refresh at centre-back because we can get rid of Curtis Tiltman, who don't want to be here, as you can tell, because he's at Wigan. But it's talk of January at the minute. It's a little bit forward thinking. I mean, I'm a bit hypocritical because we've been on about winning league on the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, we know the players that are going to have attention. It's going to be Wiles, Smith, Freddie potentially, and Chio, Barlaser as well. So they're your five. If we can keep hold of them five, we're laughing. And no real reason to strength. It's just, I'm sure they've already got the documents lined up and everything. Just in case we lose such and such, we'll go for them. And then if we get enough money for him, we can step it up a little bit. But at the same time, I can't see us selling any of them key players for any less than £2 million at all.
I agree. Smith's that contract in summer, but he's worth. If promotion's worth £8 million, that's what they're all worth.
Yeah,
if that contract in summer, fine. You go for free in summer if that's a must, but that's what you're worth to us.
And we don't know what the behind the scenes vibe is in terms of contracts. I know we've said that we're not offering him a new contract to end at season. But you never know. Some players' minds might already be made up. If we go up, I'm signing it online. Because I can't see us losing Chio to a different thing. Because he says he goes with his gut. And I'm telling you now, his gut says stay with Rotherham.
Yeah.
Same with Smith. I mean, granted he's 30 and he's having his best season he's had so far. But where would he fit in at a different club? Would another take a risk on him, etc., etc.? Freddie might go, but he's done it for future. So I can't really see much activity in January, which for the first time is a good thing.
Yeah. The question Smith got to ask himself, and it's not a nice question to ask yourself, but he's 30 years old. and is out of contract this summer. All it takes is a semi-bad injury in February, and he's not getting a new contract at another club. Or if he is, he's getting similar or reduced terms that he's currently on. It's a risk. That's football. This is the gamble he might have to take to earn another 10 grand a week on his contract. But it is a risk, and it's something he will. Look at me here. He's clearly already thought about this. Him and his family and his agent have clearly talked about this. But this is the risk footballers can take with their careers. Paul Jabbock says we need a new centre back and a new striker.
New striker for who?
We definitely don't need a striker. We've got, assuming they all stay, which is the key thing. If Smithy, Freddie, Grigg, and Coyote all stay, then four is plenty. Well, four's not plenty. Four's the right number. If we lose one, we've got to get another one in for me. I know Ben disagreed. Me and Ben arguments about having 4 strikers, but 4 is the right number. 4 is 100% the right number to have. That's all I've got. We've gone long again, so apologies if you're trying to listen to something else. Up the Millers.
Apologies for making you tea late.
Making you late, or your bus ride were only 45 minutes. Apologies. But we have, I think we've previewed the Sunderland game. We're back on Sunday night for the review of the Sunderland game. And then we've also got Tuesday night to look ahead to. That we October finished on Halloween night. And we will look at Charlton. We'll be joined by Nathan Muller, who will be our scouting report friend from Charlton Athletic for Sunday night for preview. And then next week, the FA Cup first round the following Saturday, which I'm already getting pretty excited for. Have you two anything else you want to add, mention, talk about?
No, all good.
Brilliant. Check out the website, newyorktalk.co.uk, for the article on our youth players from Lewis Oldham. Danny's match report will be up there. And we'll see you all on Sunday night or Monday morning, wherever you watch and listen. Thank you very much.
Credits on one-on-one. Credit finish shoot. Can they go shot?
Apologies to the neighbours.